having difficult conversations about mental health actually goes back to focusing on component 1, and the core message in there is about relationships. If we build good relationships, we invest that time getting to know people, establishing an element of safety and trust and genuine interest in people, then it makes those difficult conversations that much easier. Sometimes we can be stuck as to knowing where to start that conversation. And one of the things that we have actually embedded in component 3 is a model called SIB. And essentially that's about setting the scene, perhaps inviting someone to have that chat, to have a coffee and to set that environment for a conversation that may well be difficult. Then to actually identify or actually raise the issue, and then together maybe brainstorm, for want of a better word, what some of the options are, what some of the concerns are. Now, it may well be after that attempt of having that conversation, you're still feeling uncomfortable or feeling worried about that person. Then we'd highly recommend that you would need to, well, not even highly recommend, I think it's essential that you speak to a core relevant person in your school. Now, that could be a wellbeing coordinator. In some schools, you may not have that position or a guidance officer. So it is essential in those circumstances, in fact in all circumstances, to also talk to the principal. Ultimately, we've actually thought about these things before you have that difficult conversation. It's about us thinking about the referral pathways, for want of a better word, that we actually cover in more detail in component 4. But it's about thinking in advance. If I was to be concerned about someone in our school, whether it be a colleague or a student, who is the person that I would need to go to get some support or advice? And having thought about that prior will actually help us, I think, in some way. The cost of not having that conversation, even though it takes a lot of courage, is further down the track. It may well be that something may happen. And sometimes that feeling of, well, gee, I should have said something. I might have needed to have spoken to someone about it. I think is really crucial. And I think it's about living with that and making a difference. Sometimes it's also about a duty of care. A duty of care for that person, a duty of care for that student, that ultimately something needs to be done and raised. Sometimes the cost of raising those things, even though it does take courage, is maybe the relationship. But I know for myself, I would rather lose that relationship than not do anything about it and not raise that issue. Ultimately, there are actually standards in place, particularly for teachers. That's the Australian Institute for Teaching and School Leadership. And they cover a number of key areas. One is a safe and supporting learning environment. The other one is engaging professionally with colleagues, parents and community. And under there sits a number of key points: ethics and responsibilities, and legal and organisational requirements. Now, we would hope that schools would embed that within their strategic plan and with their policies, so it's relevant for all school personnel.